Hello, people. I am so angry at the idiots that run this country. I am sick and tired of my families in there, some of them, yet they don't research because they don't have computers. They don't know nothing. I mean, they lack of education, but they stop listening to me and listen to other people, and I'm telling you, it's going to be a disaster in the making. All right, here we're going to talk about radiation dangers. All right, you got 5G rollout, airport and airplane radiation, automotive radiation, babies and children, baby monitors, birds, insects, animals, wildlife, and nature, cancer clusters, cell phones and tablets, cell towers, climate change. There we go. Climate change, contact, detox, dirty electricity, which, by the way, is what they're going to be using. Donations, yeah, they like that money there. Driverless cars, electric grid, radiation dangers, EMF quiet zones, microwave effects, energy saving light bulbs. I don't see them working for me. Events, firefighters, and police at risk. Gaming addiction. Yep. Illnesses and deaths. In-home analysis. Infertility. Latest news. Lawsuits against big tech. LED light, LED lights, microwave ovens, microwave weapons, mind control, my story, nuclear radiation, privacy policy, radiation sickness, ringing in the ears and tinnitus, or something like that. Safety standards, satellite radiation, shielding, smart meters, smoke detectors, solar power, beware. The studies, subscribe and confirmation, ultrasound, that's with turbines, victories, videos, what we can do. And this is Wi-Fi radiation and wind turbines, infrasound. Wind turbines, infrasound. Okay, here's a wind farm. Look at all this ground. Where in this ground do you see a tree? You do not see a tree because they cut them down. These things, this one in particular, costs about $1 million. People think they're doing something good by doing this, but in the long run, who's going to pay for these $1 million windmills that aren't going to work? Alright, we have been sold a bill of goods, despite being repeatedly told that the wind and solar power are clean and green technology. In fact, these technologies are lethal. What most people are not aware of that the wind turbines create technologically produce infrasound, and in the same way that the technology produced ultrasound can wreak havoc inside the human body and inside the bodies of all living beings. Infrasound, too, is well known to make people sick and destroy the lives of innocent beings, including killing hundreds of thousands of birds annually in North America alone. These technologies are not safe, and along with creating all manner of disturbances to the natural environment, they also create massive waste issues. For info about dangers of solar technology, see here. And I will leave links to this if you want to. And you can learn about this. It's very disturbing. And my brother and sister is letting them talk them into putting these in. Supposedly backed by a bunch of trees, which another farmer owns, but they're paying them money to do that. Now there's a big wonder there, but they got no fight with me because I'm stupid. That's that damn stupid piece of crapola. Okay, wind power affects climates, cooling and warming regions around farms, studies claim. Look at all those turbines. These are the smaller ones. They get bigger than this. Wind turbines take energy from the atmosphere and turn it into electricity. So we know they must have some impact on the atmosphere's flow. With industrial grade turbines being built in a terrific rate, scientists have been trying to assess exactly what the effects are both at local and global levels. New research using a finely resolved model which focuses on Europe indicates that the effects of doubling the present wind capacity by 2020 are at the level of a couple of percent changes a couple of percent changes in rain and a few tenths of a degree in temperatures. The cloudy by Bautard and colleagues shows that these effects include a mix of more rain and less rain, and warming and cooling depending on where you are around Europe. But a key policy question left unsolved by this paper is, to what should these changes be compared? There are two main ways of estimating the climate impact of wind turbines. One is to compare the real climate of a region before and after wind farms are installed there. This approach is limited by the availability of observations. Modern wind farms are a relatively new phenomenon, so there is not much data to compare the climate after wind farms are installed with the years before. Ruling out the reasons for the climate changes we observe is also a challenge. Climate change. Using the observational approach, researchers have found that the climate around the large wind farm in Texas was affected by the presence of the turbines, taking the ground temperature measured by satellites. They detected a warming of 0.5 Celsius at night in the region directly under the farm. This warming effect was local and small. The nighttime warning did not extend beyond the farm's immediate neighborhood. But not many people live right among the wind turbines. To look at similar effects far from the wind farms, another approach is to simulate the Earth's climate with computer models. Using climate history data, projections are made that account for motion, thermodynamics, chemistry, and radiation in the atmosphere, land, and sea. Years of simulations are run with and without wind farms installed. This method has the advantage of being able to detect very small climate change signals. Since the model can be run for a long time and natural variabilities gets smaller as yet average over more and more years. Also, all factors besides wind that might cause climate change can be held constant. The disadvantage is that the model of climate behavior may not correspond exactly to what happens in reality. This approach was first attempted by David Keith and colleagues in 2004 when they compared the climate in their model with and without extremely large wind farms, large enough to generate about twice the world's total percent electrical demand. They found that in addition to climate effects in the immediate vicinity of the wind farms, there were changes in climate all around the world. Yeah, right. There were regions of warming and cooling of about 0.5 Celsius and increase and decrease in precipitation by a few percent. A follow-up paper showed that these changes were mostly a result of changes in wind direction caused by the wind turbines. The model winds tended um, shy away from the wind farms a little, so that downstream from the farms there would be regions of extra wind from the south that would tend to be warmer, and regions of extra wind from the north that would tend to be colder. Vanguard's study agrees with the earlier work and funding that the climate impact of wind farms extend beyond the farms themselves and are caused by changes in the flow of the atmosphere that bring warming and cooling to different regions around the wind farms. Now, what's the right comparison? Oh no. So, how should we understand these results? Keith and colleagues compared the climate change caused by wind turbines with the climate change that would have been caused by fossil fuel burn to make the same amount of electricity, but because carbon dioxide lasts for centuries or millennia in the atmosphere, unless we suck it out somehow. It's hard to know over how many years to calculate the avoided carbon dioxide emissions for the 20-year life of the turbines, or for the few hundred years of supply of fossil fuels that could be burned. Now that the impacts of wind turbines on climate change are becoming better understood, more comprehensive studies of complete future energy systems are needed. We need to ask what combination of wind power, solar power, nuclear power, and fossil fuel power, together with that combination of measurements to remove carbon from the atmosphere, will result in the lowest overall environmental and social costs. It's my stepdad. He was born in 1910. He's older than my mom, and he was always on this thing about trees, leaving trees up. He told us what trees were for, and farms, why they have them in rows, is to keep the wind off the fields and stuff like that. It helps the farmland. But cutting these trees down, he would be upset. But my brother, he can't help but see that dollar sign, and I'm wrong. So he starts yelling at me, no, yet he knows. I mean, he knows. You know, all I can say, I told him, I said, don't come crying to me because I told you so. But these things cause a lot of problems. As far as there's problems with the sound, and these things are across the street from where my brother lives. And now they want to put them on the other side of the street where he lives. So they're all around, and they make noise. It's that ultrasound, that sound that you can't hear, but you can hear, and it does damage to you. And also the flickering of these propellers, and plus they're ugly. And what is wrong with the electrical lines? You know, there was a woman on the news the other day that says, why don't they bury the lines? It would be safer. Wouldn't that be a little bit more better than putting up something that costs $1 million a piece? I guarantee you they're going to be crying when they have to pay for these stupid turbines. You know, and that bill passed, and then people are jumping up for joy, but I'm telling you, it's not going for roads and bridges. This is infrastructure. This is what they want to do. They don't give a crap about the roads or bridges. They're going to wait until we're dead. So we'll get to this other one. Now, this is a laugh. I just heard this one. Okay. This is, I was hearing that in Europe, they are doing hydrogen cars and electric cars. Electric vehicles are not zero emissions. Emissions from hybrid and plus in electric vehicle energy. Hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. US EPA. We'll look at this baby there. You know, I love my brother and sister, but man, how ignorant can you really be? Electric versus hydrogen, the pros and cons of greener transportation. Domestic car use alone accounts for roughly 1/10 of global carbon dioxide CO2 emissions. So switching to zero emissions vehicles is the only option. But electric cars are no longer the obvious choice, and hydrogen vehicles could speed up transition. Building cars for lower carbon emissions has become a more difficult global issue for manufacturers to negotiate demand for new vehicles fell abruptly as people traveled and commuted less during the disease pandemic. Then a global computer chip shortage shut down cars plants, wiping out profits that could have been reinvested in change. Biden, go over to the docks and fix it. That's where your computer chips are. On top of that, scarcity and rising prices for raw materials, including cobalt and nickel, for electric vehicles. Batteries means that increasing the production and meeting emission targets will be more difficult, but it could hasten the adoption of hydrogen cars as government favor hydrogen power alongside renewable energy to replace fossil fuels. I will leave a link to these so you can look at them. I know people don't like to read, but it's about time people started doing it. Okay, the Hindenburg disaster. I don't know if any of you remember that one, but here it is. The airship Hindenburg, the largest dirigible ever built and the pride of the Nazi Germany, burst into flames upon touching its mooring mast in Lake Burst, New Jersey, killing 36 passengers and a crew member on May 6, 1937. Frenchman Henry Giffard constructed the first successful airship in 1852. His hydrogen-filled blimp carried a 3-horsepower steam engine that turned a large propeller and flew at a speed of 6 miles per hour. The rigid airship, often known as the Zeppelin, after the last name of its innovator, Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin, was developed by the Germans in the late 19th century. Unlike French airships, the German ships had a light framework of metal girders and that protected a gas-filled interior. However, like Giffard's airship, they were lifted by highly flammable hydrogen gas and vulnerable to explosion, large enough to carry substantial numbers of passengers. One of the most famous rigid airships was the Graf Zeppelin, a dirigible that traveled around the world in 1929 in the 1930s. The Graf Zeppelin pioneered the first transatlantic air service, leading to the construction of the Hindenburg, a larger passenger airship. On May 3, 1937, the Hindenburg left Frankfurt, Germany for a journey across the Atlantic to Lakehurst Navy Air Base, stretching 804 feet from stern to bow. It carried 36 passengers and a crew of 61. Geez, oh Pete. While attempting to moor at Lakehurst, the airship suddenly burst into flames, possibly after a spark ignited its hydrogen core. Sorry for laughing, but I was thinking about those electric cars. Rapidly falling 200 feet to the ground. The hull of the airship incinerated within seconds. 13 passengers, 21 crewmen, and one civilian member on the ground and crew lost their lives, and most of the survivors suffered substantial injuries. Radio announcers Herb Morrison, who came to Lakehurst to record a routine voice over the NBC newsreel, immortalized the Hindenburg disaster in a famous on-the-scene description in which the emotionally declared, the humanity, the recording of Morrison's commentary was immediately flown to New York, where it was aired as part of the Americans' first coast-to-coast radio news broadcast. Lighter than air passenger travel rapidly fell out of favor after the Hindenburg disaster, and no rigid airships survived World War II. If you can look that up, the Hindenburg on video, you will hear that broadcast. It's kind of sad, I remember hearing that. I mean, I wasn't born back then, but back then they had this kind of stuff that we knew about this stuff, and this is what they want to put in cars. This helium, this hydrogen stuff. It's pretty bad. That stuff's very flammable. And the thing with the turbines, I told my brother and sister, because they were paying him to cut down his trees, and I says, they probably are going to get you to do those turbines. I'll bet you they'll do that. And it wasn't long after that, sure enough, they asked him, and they waved the money under his stupid nose, and before I just called him up, and he was already yelling about it, because he knew I didn't like him. But they're going to regret it, and I told them not to freaking call me up and freaking bug me if something goes wrong. They even got more mad about that. So, yeah, this is stuff I've been leaving in the back burner, but I just had to come out and do it because it was getting too much. I mean, Biden and his stupid crap, and now they want to pass the tax bill. Well, somebody's got to pay for all this stuff. Who do you think that somebody's going to be? Is it going to be those people that are passing those bills? No, I don't think so. And with this mandate, they do it to corporations. All that stuff is going to come down to the prices of the stuff. It's just that people need to realize that fact. I'm sorry, I'm just upset. This is just disgusting. It's just, and how stupid people really can be, and how they believe this crap. I mean, I remember seeing that stuff about that Hindenburg, pretty awful disaster. But anyway, I want to say, be careful out there, and watch out for each other, pray for one another, pray for peace, Let God help you. Listen to what He's telling you. I want to say God bless and take care of yourselves. We love you all.